starting to settle in now.
Scott Boris tells Fox Sports that Washington, Steven Strasburg aren't an active constituent thoughts. My wife's trying to fuck with me. We just saw you in the mirror.
Hi.
Anthony says hi.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Over the Top Turnbuckle debut episode. I'm Anthony. He's Matt. And of course, we got our awesome producer, Paul.
Thank you.
What's up, everyone? We promise this will be a great wrestling podcast, and you can believe in that.
I knew he was going to do it. I knew he was going to have to go there with Roman.
Give reference to Roman, man.
But, well, since he brought up someone that I don't even think deserves in this man's league, let's advance to a real wrestler and a technical wrestler at that. And let's talk Daniel Byran's sudden retirement. For a few months, maybe even closer to a year, most people thought it was definitely a plausibility and it was probably going to end up happening. But now that it officially went through, I'll be honest with you, I didn't expect it to happen that quickly. I thought maybe he was going to try, and I know he really was trying. He was pushing to come back, but the fact that he just retired like that and out of nowhere you hadn't really heard that he was coming back, and then you saw Raw was in Seattle and Washington, his hometown, and then to see that he was actually officially retiring, and I think it didn't set in until he came out on Raw on Monday night. But Matt, I want to get your thoughts on it too.
When I first heard about it, because obviously it came out, I think the day of or the day before, it was like the day of. Anger, sad, happy. I mean, you're angry because there's so many people we still hadn't seen him face. We still hadn't seen him go up against like Seth Rollins on any this year. AJ Styles just came in. I mean, so many people we still haven't seen him face. But then, that's the angry and sad part. Then the happy part is, WWE finally stepped in and finally said, "Hey, look, you can't wrestle." And every other doctor cleared him, but WWE kept saying no, no, no. And I think this comes back to, what's happened to. They don't really talk about him, but with Chris Benoit, the concussions he got would eventually end up happening to him. They're learning from these concussions and everything, and the fact that they were the ones to put a stop to it really shows that WWE as a whole company is actually developing into more, the way they treat their wrestlers is almost the way the NFL does. You have a concussion, you can't go out right away. So they're really starting to become a more respectable industry, and recognizing injuries and waiting to tell someone, hey, look, you got to call it quits. And Brian, was all for it. And then a week before, the doctor said, look, you're still having problems. And he finally hung it up, which was smart for him. Who knows what would happen if he would have kept going to New Japan, if he went to Ring of Honor, what more could have came from that.
Absolutely, I agree. And they were saying that he was ready to go on a huge independent tour. And I think that what you said was great. I think that the medical reasons need to outweigh that as much as, as a business, the WWE knew how much Daniel Bryan meant and would mean coming back in there and help, the fans loved him. And you said no, 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 but I'm sure the fans were saying yes, 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 that he returned. But I think ultimately the right decision was to retire, and I'm glad that, he was able to do it and he didn't try and come back, and it could have been much worse. So unfortunately, he was, still probably had at least a few more years, and we were hoping another world title run in him, but we definitely got to see some good matches, and there's no doubt that him being in the WWE definitely set it up so that all these guys like AJ and your Sami Zayns and your Nevilles, the guys that were in NXT and now starting to move up to the main roster, are getting that chance. And I think it was very large in part to Daniel Bryan.
Oh yeah, and obviously he's gonna be a Hall of Famer. Maybe not next year, maybe the year, maybe probably the year after, but he's gonna be a signature class of the Hall of Fame. He'll get his own special, like Sting gotten it, like Stone Cold. He'll be his own man for the Hall of Fame.
Oh, yeah. I couldn't agree more with you. I think he's definitely the headliner.
Now I think we should switch to something else that happened that night, which was Titus O'Neil thought that it was a funny joke to grab Vince McMahon and say, hey, ladies first, let your daughter go, which didn't turn out to be such a smart move on his part, was it, Anthony?
No, not at all. I will say that I don't think that the suspension was where they should have went with it. And I'm glad. I know originally he went with 90 days, then he moved it down to 60,
Well, it's probably because
and
all the backlash he got from people.
I think it still sinks because it's going to keep Titus out of WrestleMania, and that's the biggest card of the year. Whether he was going to be in any singles match, which I doubt, but he still would have probably been in the Battle Royal. I think that stinks to not be able to be on the grandest stage, that you work for all year. That's their Super Bowl, that's their World Series, and to now miss out on that and have to watch from the sidelines, I think it's just really rough.
Well, I think more than the battle royale. I think they're going to have either U.S. or Intercontinental. If they have one of those ladder matches again, I think he would have been featured in it, and I think he was in line for a big push. Now, who knows what's going to happen with him? What's going to happen with his career? Is he going to come back and be just a jobber for some other guy? I hope not, because I think he has the charisma. He's really starting to do more charity events. He's almost becoming, not John Cena type, but he's doing it more and more charity events, which in Vince's eye is a good thing. Triple H loves guys who do that. So, who knows? Maybe he was in line for a push, and we'll see what happens. Hopefully, Triple H, will just be like, Vince, let it slide. He did suspension. Let's get him back to where he was.
Well, I will say on that as well with the letting it slide, I had read at one point there was reports circulating that Vince was looking to get rid of him completely. And Triple H and Joey Mercury and guys backstage went to bat for Titus, which is why they ended up with the suspension. And now there's more reports circulating. Like I don't like to take the reports with 100% fact because it's not coming from them, but I'm reading that there was more to the situation than was put out, and that's why the situation got escalated to the point it was. But you could obviously see if you watch back on the WWE Network for just $9.99, plug for them. The Titus actually grabbed Vince, and you could see Vince looked angry immediately and swung his arm as Titus grabbed him. So I think there might have been more to that situation because I can't see the arm, some grabbing someone by the arm and just getting that, that upset and visibly upset on live TV.
Well, I hate to say this, but if it's Roman or John doing that, Vince probably looks the other way. That's what's bad about Titus was they said he was a scapegoat. He was the guy that's going to be made the example of, and it's sucks that it happened to him. Too bad it didn't happen to someone more. I hate to say it, but maybe a lower card guy. Too bad it didn't happen to one of them instead of a top guy who's starting to bring it up in the industry.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, he could have always stayed around, and like as you see what's happening to Tyler Breeze, a great talent from NXT that asked to leave a show early, and now he's being punished by putting in matches that he's just losing every week, and and he's a great talent, and it's just sad to see someone like that, constantly get their matches look
Yep.
diminished.
Yeah. But we're gonna take a quick break from WWE. We'll come back to them. But first, I want to go to TNA real quick and the whole that company as a whole. I think is not what it should be. I think the talent they had, they're not up there where they should be. And now you have Matt Hardy as a champion. And I still go to the fact TNA is a poor man's WWE's where they get all their broken down wrestlers. They go over to TNA and they don't. TNA doesn't develop their own stars. You saw they lost AJ. They were able to bring back James Storm. Matter of fact, Beer Money is back together, where I think it was one of their smartest moves. I think one of the worst things they ever did was splitting those guys up. Those guys were great individually, but they're better together. Jeff and Matt, oh my God, they're feuding. Where have we seen that before? Haven't we seen Matt and Jeff feud before? I think we have, haven't we?
I think we have, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, oh yeah. Way to steal another WWE idea. But I'm tired of seeing Matt and Jeff feud. I'm really upset Jeff actually signed an extension with TNA. I was hoping he was going to come back to WWE. I would have loved to see the Hardy Boys back, especially since they brought the Dudleys. But big match coming up next week. That lockdown will be Matt versus Ethan Carter, which I like Ethan Carter. I think he has amazing talent. Sucks that where he's at right now. There's a lot of talent in TNA that I don't think they use properly. AJ they did, but then they started screwing him over towards the end. Samoa Joe, he was starting to get washed in the back. And I think that's why those two left to come to NXT. Now you're going to talk about NXT obviously in a couple moments. But Matt Hardy's a champion. Yeah, he's a great wrestler, but he's not Jeff. Jeff was great as a champion. He's in WWE. He has the charisma. He has the in-ring skills. I think Matt, when you think of the Hardy Boys, mostly the guy who pops out was always Jeff. It was never Matt. It was always Jeff this, Jeff that. The only time Matt really got his own storyline was with the whole Edge, Lita fiasco that they turned into a storyline, which one of those personal real life scenarios they brought in. But I think Ethan Carter should get the title back on him. I think he's the next guy to be the face of that company in TNA. He's a great heel. He's a great guy that they have. I think guys like Ethan Carter, James Storm, and the whole Beer Money, those guys are going to have to ride. TNA's going to ride on their bats, I think.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. I think that real quick while I say it before we continue talking about TNA. EC3, one of the reasons why I liked the three at the end for our podcast was because I think EC3 is a tremendous talent in TNA. And I think it's a shame that when he was in the WWE, they weren't able to use him better off when he was Derek Bateman. But I think it was also a great thing for him because he kind of got to go out there and show that he has a great amount of talent. And being in TNA where there's not as many, big name players, at the time, and they're still looking for, younger guys to put up there. Because like you said, a lot of the guys that were there, other than their like young TNA guys that have been there since the beginning, were WWE guys from the past. Like a Matt Hardy, like a Mr. Kennedy who turned into Mr. Anderson, people Jeff Hardy, people of that nature, and it was just a good spot for EC3 to go, and he came in I think at a time in TNA when they were starting to, it was probably at the point where they were starting to lose the talent and they were starting to have a lot of issues, and he came in and I think he did a great job, and arguably he was one of the best heels in all of wrestling, not just in TNA. And I think he did a great job there. And I think that he's definitely someone that in a couple years when he's, done with TNA or whenever his contract, I think he definitely needs one more run in the WWE with that kind of persona that he used in TNA because it definitely worked and it got the fans, to really boo him. So,
Oh yeah, definitely. I think he definitely deserves another run. Hopefully he keeps it going in TNA, and hopefully TNA still utilize him the way they do. Hopefully they don't just say, "Oh, we've done what we want with him." Throw him back in the ETS division or whatever those other
hmm
divisions they have there.
So
Now I know, huh? Go ahead,
I
Paul.
got a question. The
Mhm.
so like you're talking about how these guys are like swapping back and forth. So do they is that common? Do you see wrestlers bouncing around from network to network or wrestling? What are they? Companies to
It's
company?
mostly I think the mid card lower end guys are the ones that will bounce around a lot. The
Mm-hmm.
higher end ones they'll always end up signing the long term deal. Like you'll never see a John Cena or any of those top dogs in WWE ever bounce around. But the lower end ones, mid cards, I believe you will see sometimes bounce around because like with Christian, he was starting to slowly, lose momentum. WWE, he went to TNA, gained it all back, came back to WWE, won the ECW championship, had a world title run. So you see a lot of guys in WWE who will, the lower end guys who will lose it. They'll go to TNA, Ring of Honor, New Japan,
Okay.
reinvent themselves, and then WWE will re-sign them back once and say, hey, look, this guy's at his peak. Let's make the most out of him. Man, Anthony, do you agree with that?
yeah, I 100% agree. I think that you very rarely see, the main guys go over. Paul, for your point, the only time you really ever see a top guy do it was like a Kurt Angle, who at the time
Oh
was
yeah.
had a lot of surgery on his neck, and he was just having a lot of health concerns at the time. And the WWE is a very hectic schedule from what you read and you see. I mean, these guys are on the road at least minimum 300 plus days a year
Wow.
out of 365. And there's some weeks where they're going to other countries, they're touring other countries, going show to show, day by day. And they're like, just this example, they were just in I think Germany this past weekend,
Hmm.
and they had to take like a 16 to 20 hour flight back home to the West Coast for tonight's Raw. Exactly. So I mean, it's a very hard schedule, and it's definitely not an easy thing to do. And I think a lot of these mostly, the top guys are going to stick around, but you have that very rare exception,
Yeah.
like Matt said, like a Kurt Angle, where he will go down. But for the most part, it's usually like the guys that want to gain credibility. So this way, when they come back to the WWE, they
Hmm.
already have a name for themselves because it's a lot harder to work up, if you don't really have much of a name for yourself, unless you're just like an exceptional talent and that's someone they want to push behind,
Right.
like a Roman Reigns, for example, right now.
Gotcha. All right. Cool. Thanks.
Now let's go to you, Anthony, who wants to talk some New Japan.
I do want to talk a little New Japan wrestling, actually. There's a couple things, and I think for people that have been reading, you've probably seen it on the New Japan front. Nakamura, if you didn't see it, hasn't officially televised yet. So I'll say a slight spoiler alert, but it was also published the night it happened at the taping live by the WWE and by the NXT Instagram and on WWE.com. But he is going to be debuting at NXT TakeOver Dallas in April, the night before WrestleMania. And I think that that's a huge, huge get for the WWE. If you haven't had a chance to watch Nakamura at all and watch any of his matches, definitely check out some of the stuff that he's done in New Japan because he's just a phenomenal talent. I don't mean to plug AJ here, but between him and AJ, those matches that they've had before, and I can't wait to see that match someday happen on a WWE stage because he's just a fantastic talent. Matt, I don't know if you've seen too much or a
I
lot of Nakamura,
see they
but
haven't had New Japan on mostly over here, so it's hard to keep up with that. But now they're starting to put it on. I'm gonna have to, start watching a little bit more now on TV.
Yeah, my
Fair
son
enough.
actually picked that up. We don't watch a lot of wrestling over here, but I like it, And then he picked up the first thing he ever saw was the New Japan episode, and he fell in love. He was hooked. He's been hooked watching these guys fly around in like the different costumes. Man, he's just kind of. I've had a lot more bruises now just because he's seen it.
Well, you can almost compare New Japan to what they do in like Mexico and the AAA. You know, the luchas, the way they fly around and everything.
Yeah, it's pretty
Yeah,
fun to watch. It's entertaining, that's for sure.
absolutely. And another thing on New Japan, and I know you're excited about this, Matt, and we've talked about this many of times, is the impending Anderson and Gallows team, the Bullet Club, as you've seen teased over social media, over WWE, especially by Finn Balor. When they do make their debut, the question is, where do they come? Do they show up on the main roster? Do
Now,
they
I've
show
heard
up on
rumors about the main.
NXT?
I heard rumors that they're bringing them straight up to the main roster, which wouldn't be a bad idea because you can see they're hurting. I mean, there's how many times have we seen New Day versus the Usos? I mean, they're hurting pretty badly for tag team for right now. I mean, what really killed them was Cesaro and Tyson Kidd went out
Kid.
almost near each other. You got I think Darren Young went out kind of early with Titus O'Neil, so they're hurting. So I heard rumors that they are coming up real to the main roster right away.
Now, let me ask you a question. If they do debut on the main roster,
Hey guys, hold on one sec.
do
For some reason,
okay?
the stream looks like I don't know what happened to it. Are you guys following the stream by any chance?
Yeah, it's still going on mine.
Are we still live here?
I have an error code on mine, so let me try something. Hold on.
All right. If we are live, we do apologize. We're just having a couple difficulties. We'll be back up very shortly, everybody.
Oh, hey. There we
Good to
go.
go. All
Sorry,
right, go
guys.
ahead.
All right. Sorry
that.
about that. Slight little difficulties, but we are back on. As we were saying, we have you have the impending team joining. If they do show up on the main roster, Matt, do you want them to show up by themselves, or do you think it should be something of maybe they rejoin AJ Styles or in some way or fashion, or maybe Finn Balor moves up? What would you do if you are in the area of booking there? What would you want done?
That's a tough question because do you recognize the whole Bullet Club from New Japan, and do you have I really want Balor to come up to the roster, but right now they're saying he's the face. But why not have AJ face someone? Maybe have someone come down, feeling they're gonna do a beatdown, and then just have these two guys just show up out of nowhere, and it's just like, whoa, who's AJ coming with? Maybe have AJ, because there's rumors of AJ about Triple H after WrestleMania. Why not have AJ go after the Authority? Maybe they get some more. Rollins comes back with all his goons, and maybe they look AJ surrounded. Then here comes these two guys in their little ski mask or whatever, come out and start beating people up, and then AJ's like, oh yeah, look who's here with me now.
Well,
But then
I think that
also, does Triple H use the Bullet Club to his advantage? Because you've seen Finn Balor has been doing a lot of stuff on Instagram with him and Triple H next to each other. Do we see a new power couple coming out? With Triple H saying, look, Rollins couldn't get the job done. Kane and Big Show, they weren't anything. Randy Orton, I had to go out and get some new younger guys, and then you see these four team up with Triple H instead.
I think both of those scenarios are great, and I look forward to, just in general, like you said, I look forward to Gallows and Anderson showing up, and I think however they use them, as long as they use them well, and I think definitely putting them into the tag team title picture, whether they're with the Bullet Club or by themselves, I think is going to be a huge boost, and it'll be good to see Gallows get another run after his first run in the
His
WWE.
gimmick's ridiculously stupid when he was here. The Straight Edge Society, okay, I can understand that, but he never got to do anything on his own. TNA, he had the aces and eights, and then, New Japan finally said, look, maybe this guy can actually do something. And you put him in a tag team with Anderson, and wow, he just sprung out of nowhere.
Absolutely.
Another example where a guy in WWE couldn't find what he needed, went somewhere else, and now he's coming back with a straight mind and everything.
And he's coming back with probably a decent deal at that to come from Japan over here to the WWE, because it's obvious that Vince
TNA was going
and
for
Triple
him.
H want him.
TNA wanted all of them, and they chose this instead.
And I think that has to do with a lot that they want to make sure that they're on the grand stage, and they see that now's the time, and they see a different movement in the way that WWE is, and I think it's great. So, is there anything else you wanted to add on that?
No, but I think talking about NXT, I think we should switch to our NXT
Absolutely.
segment. What do you think?
That was my segue, and I'm glad you picking up what I'm putting down there.
So let's. I don't know what that was. Let's talk about the tapings you went to and how everything looked while you were there.
All right. What I will say is I'm here down in the Sunshine State in Florida. Without giving away any of the outcomes of the matches, I was actually able to attend both NXT tapings recently. The one that was here in Florida at UCF, and then the one that was at Full Sail. I think it was the next week after that one, and I actually got to attend the Royal Rumble as well that week. So that was a great wrestling week for me. But I will say that at the NXT tapings that are currently on around now that you're going to start seeing on TV. I think most recently we just saw the Bayley and Carmella match, which was actually, I was very surprised to see Carmella in that match. I thought she had a very good go in the match, and it definitely showed that she's going to be, one of the top girls there for the future to come there, especially if Bayley does get called up anytime soon. And I mean, I might be met with a little bit of, I don't think she is, but from what I saw, I thought Bayley and Sasha definitely, I'm sorry, Bayley and Carmella had a good match there at the NXT taping. And another match that you're going to see there is going to be the Samoa Joe and Sami Zayn for the number one contender match. So that's going to be a good match that you're going to see coming up on that.
2 out of 3.
That's going to be that'll be on the second set of tapings. There's going to be a first match, and then the second set of tapings, you're going to see the Sami Zayn and Samoa Joe 2 out of 3 falls match. And that match, I think, if I remember correctly, is going to be a full episode of NXT TV. It was almost about a 45 to 50-minute match. I will not tell you the outcome. I'm sure if you read it somewhere, I will let you read it. But as far as I would think that you definitely want to tune in to see that match because that was one of the better matches I've seen in a while between the two of them. And I think that shows that NXT is definitely becoming a big deal. And those two guys, when they get their chance on the main roster, are really going to show why they're two of the best around.
I tell you what, I'd rather watch NXT than TNA now. And that's saying something for a brand like NXT where it's just supposed to be a bunch of rookies and guys trying to get to the main roster. For me to say it's better than TNA really shows TNA is just going down the hill, I think.
Yeah, and I think, and I'll be honest with you, and there's some times where I've been to the NXT pay-per-views, and I'm talking, a couple back where you had like an Owens versus Zayn for the title, or
The
there was
one we watched in London, I think was great.
yeah, and some of them are better than the main roster pay-per-views. The Royal Rumble, I think, was a very good WWE pay-per-view, but I think in the past, and that's why I think the WrestleMania Takeover event, I mean, you look at the card they have stacking up so far, on Takeover, and it looks like it's going to be very good, and possibly some of the matches might outdo the WrestleMania card the next night. And I've read that sometimes the guys in the locker room feel a little, worried because they realize how much these NXT guys are going out there, and they're realizing how much of a fan base they're getting, and they're on the network, but they're not on national TV every week like Raw is and SmackDown is, and they're getting a lot of publicity, and their shows sell out very quickly, which is why you see them touring more and more to different states. I know you're looking forward to when they come there to the DC Maryland area.
Eventually, Triple H, bring them here. I want to see Finn. I want to see Zayn. I want to see all these guys. Speaking of, since we're talking about NXT and like you said, guys being brought up, let's talk about Enzo and Cash. How like their time is now. They never got a run with the titles in NXT. I don't think that's a problem for them. I think they're going to be great. And I tell you what, I can't wait for the promos they do with New Day. I think they're going to be fantastic.
Oh yeah, I think that Enzo and Cass are on the mic. I think that is some of the best work I've seen in a while. And in NXT, every time you go, no matter where you are watching it, they always get a great reaction, and the crowd is way into their whole entire entrance. Spelling out soft, even though they have their own take on it. And I just think that Enzo just makes that team great, and then having Cass at the height of Cass, it's just a very dynamic tag team, and it's just a really good team, and I can't wait, like you said, to see them move to the main roster, and I really hope that happens sooner rather than later against the New Day, because I think between the both of them on the mic and then the matches they could have just leading up the promos alone, I think would be able to sell those matches greatly.
Could be
and
tonight.
I think it'll
Who
benefit.
knows?
Could be. You never know, and that's the great thing is you never know. They've thrown some surprises at us lately. Like the Dudley's heel turn last week on Raw. Speaking of tag teams. It finally looks like the Usos are moving out of that picture because now it looks like they're going to have some kind of beef with the Dudleys. So that opens up a new spot for someone to face the New Day next, whether it's at Fastlane or whether it's at WrestleMania.
Well, let's go ahead and do our Raw preview. Why don't we go ahead and start that? Then we'll get into our Fastlane predictions.
All right.
So they've already announced that tonight Strowman's going to face the Big Show, and then another one they just announced is going to be AJ versus the Miz again. Now let's talk about AJ a little bit, and with him being on Raw, he lost last week. A lot of people are getting a little upset that they're saying Chris Jericho squashed him. Chris Jericho's killing younger talent, which I think is ridiculous. Jericho is one of the guys who will help a young guy move up. He's one of the guys who will take a fall for someone. So I really think it's not fair to Chris Jericho that fans are attacking him the way they are.
I 100% agree with that. I think that Jericho has done more for a lot of these young talents than many of them have, and considering that he doesn't even need to be in this spot anymore to be wrestling since he's done what he had to do, and he comes back when he has the programs he wants to work with the younger talent and put him over. I mean, you look at the last few years. I mean, you think about some of the feuds he's had with some of these guys, like Bray Wyatt, where he had the feud with him. I think it was about 2 years ago, a couple of summers ago. He returned. That was a great couple of matches they had. You had he faced, who was it that he faced as well? I mean, you go back to this, you think about how crazy it is and how far he's fell off, but he was in a match against Fandango at WrestleMania when Fandango was pretty much,
That's right.
still starting to come off, and he put him over in a match where Fandango really wasn't even into that level of where like a Wyatt is or where a AJ Styles is or someone that level. And that's just the kind of talent that Jericho is, and he puts on great matches time and time again, despite, everyone saying that. And I read a lot of that, and I think that that's, to me, is just bizarre because there's got to be a time and a point where you have to pick and you have to have some wins and losses. You can't have a guy match after match losing,
And you
especially
also
when he's a multi-time world champion, the most ever intercontinental championships by any person, So at a time, you just got to figure out where is it going to go wrong. And I think that the match on SmackDown was better than the Raw match. If no one got a chance to watch that, you definitely need to go back and check that out. But I think it's just building up to an impending match at Fastlane, which we'll talk about in a couple more minutes, I'm sure. But we'll continue talking about Raw, and I just think that it's going to continue to boost AJ by facing a guy like Jericho. I just don't see why, again, tonight. I understand they have the feud with The Miz and Jericho going back and forth. I think everyone wants to see AJ Styles have another opponent. He's got so many opponents on this WWE roster he's never faced. I think it's time to see him face someone
it's
else.
funny. You think after the Royal Rumble, you thought it was going to be Kevin Owens. The way Owens did the whole little AJ thing after throwing him out. I thought as soon as I was like, crap, it's going to be Kevin Owens, which will be great. And then you see Jericho, and I'm like, all right, the first match on Raw was great. It took a while to see the style clash. But honestly, do you really think? I mean, yeah, Jericho beat AJ. AJ can't win every single match. He's not going to. Why not set up something for Fastlane where they each won one, just go into it and out? Miz is Miz. I don't want to see that triple threat at Fastlane. I want to see AJ and I want to see Chris Jericho. I don't want a triple threat with AJ. I want AJ and Chris. They can put on a hell of a match. We've already seen that before.
Absolutely. I 100% agree with that. I don't think that we need Miz. Nothing against the Miz. I just think that this match needs to be at Fastlane. AJ versus Jericho. AJ gets the win. AJ gets 2 out of 3 against Jericho. And, some of the better matches we're going to see, this early in the year already, but probably going to be some of the, match of the year candidates, especially that one on SmackDown from what I saw and read as well from other people's perspectives. And I just think that it's only going to continue to boost him to have these kind of feuds. And who knows where he goes next? If that match at Fastlane goes down and AJ wins, where does he go to WrestleMania season? It's just a great possibilities. And like you said, how you talked about the Intercontinental title and the U.S. title match, maybe having another ladder match. I think AJ fits perfectly into one of those matches.
Oh,
if that's something
definitely.
that comes up.
Please include AJ and Kofi in the same ladder match. That'd be great.
Absolutely.
Now, we talked about the Dudleys and the Usos doing their own little thing now. So the New Day, a team needs to come up and we just talked about them. What a better time to bring up Enzo and Cash than maybe tonight or maybe the night after Fastlane. What a better time to do it. Bring them up.
Yeah,
Who knows? Maybe you bring them up tonight and it's like, you make the match for Fastlane right now. The New Day is like, look, you don't belong here, blah, blah, blah. Maybe they beat the New Day tonight in some surprise match and then they have the match at Fastlanes. Maybe that's that's my Raw out of the random prediction for the night is that Enzo and Cash make their debut tonight.
All right. There we go.
What do you think about that?
I will say I think it would be great for Enzo and Cass to show up on Raw. However, I think that to have them beat the New Day when the New Day's been, winning match after match, and I think that the Enzo and Cass should have already by now been NXT Tag Team Champions, and they never had that title. They've had the matches multiple times. They've always had them come up on the losing end, and I think to have them come up onto the main roster and in their debut match beat the New Day, wouldn't be a bad thing. It'd be a huge thing for the Enzo and Cass. But what's it say about all the past tag teams? Because now you're gonna
Well, no,
have
no, not like not like a straight up win. Maybe like a a crazy roll up.
okay,
Something
like a
that
Kalisto over Del Rio type
yeah,
thing.
like something like they beat and you see Enzo go, oh my god, and then New Day's like, this ain't happening. Fastlane, we're gonna show you. Then
One more time, can
Fastlane,
you do the oh my god for the fans at home?
oh my god. But then go into Fastlane, have them for the title, then let Biggie and Kofi, beat them down. Like, look, we brought you to reality. Maybe start a feud up to WrestleMania.
So
Yeah, and I
tell me
go
what
ahead.
Fastlane is. What's Fastlane?
It's the pay-per-view coming up, those crazy names they have for pay-per-views. Fastlane, I think it's the one they started using, a couple years back, very recently. It used to be the February one used to be St. Valentine's Day. I think Massacre was one. They used to
Oh
have
yeah,
the what was the chamber, the elimination
February,
chamber,
No Way Out.
No Way Out. So they used to have a whole bunch. Now it's,
Oh, so
Fastlane,
it's just the name
the
for
name.
this
Because
particular.
Fastlane, I think, used to be at what was it, around May time is what it used to be, wasn't it?
Um,
I think it
I
was
forget. It
later
was
in the
definitely
year.
yeah. It was later in the year, and then when the Elimination Chamber pay-per-view got taken away, they moved it back to. They took its place in February last year, and now it's looks like it's becoming the new February pay-per-view going forward. At least it has for these 2 years, and
Okay, so it's just another pay per view. Okay,
yeah, it's just
gotcha.
another name. The main four, obviously you got the Rumble, Survivor Series, WrestleMania, and
SummerSlam.
SummerSlam. Those usually are the four that have been around for, those are the ones that have been here the longest. But they kind of, the pay-per-views kind of switch around every once in a while.
Okay.
Fastlane's, I think, one of the newest ones actually that they've used.
Okay. All right.
Now, for also Raw tonight, Triple H will be on. Now, what's going to happen with the whole, Dean Ambrose, Brock, and Roman tonight? Last week we saw, Dean, got his ass kicked again and said, I'm going to take out Brock before the night's over. Well, he gave him a low blow and then went up the ramp, told Roman. Now, they've been teasing the Dean Roman split. Here's a problem I have with that real quick. Who knows? It may happen on Raw tonight, it may happen in Fastlane. The problem is when you make a heel, you want the fans to hate someone. The fans are never going to hate Dean Ambrose. That's the problem with making Dean a heel. Even if he turns on Roman, they're going to scream for Dean for turning on Roman. And, Vince, wants to protect Roman the best he can. So I can't really see a Dean heel turn on Roman because that's really going to hurt Roman more than what Vince really wants to happen. So I think, they're going to go in, they're going to try to, take out Lesnar the best way they can. I'm doing my fast link there real quick. Maybe tonight they double team up on Lesnar, but I don't really think you're going to see a heel turn for Dean in the future on Roman.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And while you're saying, I mean, the thing is with Raw and Fastlane, I know we were going to try and do a little bit of both, but uh, this is the go home Raw for Fastlane. Sunday is Fastlane. We're 6 days away. So, I mean, today is pretty much tying up everything that we think is going to happen going into Fastlane. And this is going to be, I really think it's going to be a good Raw. The question is you see this match, you see every week, like you said, the tease of that. I don't think that that's going to happen. I think it's more of just a possibility. I don't see Roman or Dean turning on each other yet. I could see that happening maybe down the road a little bit. Maybe Seth comes back and he causes some kind of tension. I just don't see it happening at Fastlane, like you said. I just think that it just wouldn't make sense in the timely manner because then if one of them
The
turns
fans
on
are
the
going to turn
other,
on Roman, and that's what
right, the
Vince
fans will turn
doesn't
on
want.
Roman even more, and they want Roman to be the next guy, which is understandable. But it just would then it sets up Brock Lesnar. If that were to happen, one person, cost the other person a match, then you have Lesnar versus Triple H at WrestleMania is what you look at, and
You don't want to. I don't think people really want to see that.
I don't think that's what people want to see yet.
I don't want to see it. Do you want to see it? Oh, Jesus.
No,
There you go.
I
Yeah,
personally
good
do not.
catch. Did you catch that?
I did.
Nice.
Now, what I honestly
Yeah.
think is going to happen at Fastlane with these two is they're going to double team Brock, look at each other, give the little brother nod that they always do, go at it themselves. Brock maybe gets back up. They go back to Brock. So I really think you're going to see more of a Dean versus Roman as they try to isolate Brock. Of course, throughout the match, Brock is going to get his momentum going. He's going to start smashing these guys around a Suplex City. But I think in the end of that match, obviously, I think it's going to come down to Roman and Dean fighting it out while Brock is somewhere incapacitated or something. Probably not, but obviously, I think we both agree it's going to come down to Roman.
Absolutely. One other quick thing on Raw. Like you said, you brought up that Braun Strowman is going to face the Big Show tonight.
Yes.
I think Strowman's winning that match. I remember a while
yeah.
they were circulating that Strowman and Big Show might happen at Fastlane, so now it's going to happen on Raw. So that kind of, we're talking about Raw. We're also talking about Fastlane. Strowman wins tonight. I think that's pretty much what everyone thinks going into it. He really hasn't had
Well,
that big
apparently
singles match.
backstage, he has been showing people he has amazing in-ring ability. Apparently, they're
Right.
saying
I
Vince is
have
starting
seen
to
that.
love it, and Triple H starting to love it. So, I mean, he may be a big guy, but apparently he's showing some really good skills, and they haven't had the chance to show it because it's always been in a tag match.
Fair enough. And do you think if he faces Big Show tonight, he beats him, where does he go next, Roman?
Well, they all came out and said, possibly Taker at WrestleMania, but apparently that got thrown out the door. So really, I don't know where he goes. I think maybe a US, well, not a US, I don't think, maybe an IC title picture or something. Maybe you see the Wyatts come back in the tag team division picture. I think they've been out of that for too long. But really, I think with Strowman, you can go a completely different way. I don't think he'll be in the title picture right now. I think they got their guys set for a WWE title picture. But maybe, maybe Strowman starts coming up a lot. Maybe Bray starts to get nervous. Who knows? Maybe there's going to be a little thing in the Wyatt family. I don't think that's going to happen. But I really think Strowman, the ceiling will be high for him. I think he's got to see some more mic skill from Strowman before I start believing he's a main eventer, I think.
We're going to transition a little bit, still on Raw, but to the Divas title picture real quick. It looked pretty clear coming out of the Rumble that Sasha Banks was cementing that she wanted to be the next person
Yeah,
in
where the hell
line
did
for
this
the
come
match,
from at Fastlanes?
right?
This
And
out of
then you had her, you have Becky Lynch still, and now they have Team Bad and Becky and Sasha now at Fastlane in a tag team match. And the number one contender, like you said, is Brie Bella. And I understand Charlotte was talking about Nikki, and I get that. But
I think
why
it was
just jump
more of
off
a.
of Sasha?
You want me to be honest with you?
Absolutely.
The way what they did with Christian with Edge, Ray with Eddie is probably more as a thank you to Daniel Bryan. We'll put your wife in the title picture real quick. She'll probably lose, and that'll be the end of it. I think it was more of a send off for Brie. Daniel's probably like, hey, look, can you do something for Brie for me? And then this was it. And I think after this Fastlane, Brie's gonna be gone from the title picture. I think
Yeah.
it was more of a thank you.
And I also think that the reason why is because they want to save that triple threat match for WrestleMania. They
Oh yeah,
want
definitely.
Charlotte versus Becky versus Sasha on the main stage because that match, you've seen the Fatal 4-Way in NXT. Obviously, Bayley was in the match as well, but one of the better matches I've seen all year. And I mean, those girls down in NXT were putting on match after match when it was whether it was a singles match, tag team, triple threat, Fatal 4-Way, whatever the match was. When the four horsewomen, as they call themselves, were involved
Yeah.
in a match, always some of the best matches. And honestly, when I went to the events, sometimes they were the match of the night.
Well,
And
remember
I
they were
think
the
that,
first. Sasha was one of the first, along with Bailey, the first females ever to main event a big, time. I
yeah,
guess NXT's pay per view, and also the first people to do an Iron Man match.
yeah. And I think that that's going to continue to elevate. And I think that that's something that definitely is going to be great to watch for the next couple months, especially going into the, WrestleMania season. Um, so you're going with the Enzo and Cass for the New Day. Dean Ambrose obviously isn't going to have an Intercontinental title match.
No.
Kalisto and Del Rio. We know that feud's continuing with the League of Nations. It looks like the League of Nations is kind of just getting lost in the shuffle on Raw lately because,
Everyone
Sheamus
keeps
is
getting
out
hurt.
with the wrist.
Barrett can't stay healthy.
Barrett can't stay healthy. And then you have Rusev, who's kind of on the outside looking in because at least Del Rio is in a title picture right now since he was the former United States title and gets his rematch at Fastlane. Do you see, me personally, I see Kalisto being victorious.
Oh yeah, I do. I don't think they need to stop the whole going back and forth crap. I'm getting tired of it. I think Kalisto is gonna have a good title run. And here's my little shocker for you. Ray comes back in time for WrestleMania. They've been talking about it for a while. He's in contract disputes. He may want to come back. Why not put him back and give Kalisto someone that he can go over? Yeah, he's getting over on Del Rio, but why not over a big veteran like Rey Mysterio? Have Ray come back and be like, look, I started this up. I started the mass luchadors in WWE. I'm the original guy. Where do you come out saying, you're the number one now with the U.S. title? Why not? Why not have Kalisto versus Ray? I think it'd be an entertaining match. And the one thing I want them to stay away from is having a feud with Sin Cara. Anytime they try to break up a tag team, it never ends well for either party. And we've seen that with Titus and Darren Young went at it. Didn't end well for either of them, and they end up bringing them back together. So I hope they stay away from Kalisto and Sin Cara. Maybe they can still be a tag team like what New Day does, when they have a single title. But I think Kalisto needs to get over. I don't think they need to do flip-flop to let Kalisto get over and go into a ladder match at
Uh,
WrestleMania. Because you saw
Well,
what he did in the ladder match when they had the tag team titles. He put a hell of a show up
oh yeah,
in that
Kalisto's
match.
honestly probably the MVP of that match, especially with the Salida del Sol off the top rope through the
What did he
ladder.
get? The oh my god, was it the oh my god moment?
Oh
Yeah.
my God, moment of the year, yes.
Yep.
Hmm.
So what do you think about that?
I think Kalisto is a great talent. I got to see him in NXT before he got moved up to the main roster, obviously with the Lucha Dragons, and then they got moved up to Raw and SmackDown. I think Kalisto is a great. I'm very surprised. Not to say he doesn't deserve to be in that picture, but I was very surprised to see him, get his hands on a title, especially before someone like Bray Wyatt. How Bray Wyatt is still not a champion, it's still crazy to me. But we'll get back to Kalisto. I think that Kalisto being in a feud with Del Rio is a huge deal, like you said. I think it elevates him. It puts him in a guy, a former world champion, a main event caliber talent that has helped him put him over. And I think it's the matches I've seen. I mean, you can say as well, but I think they've been pretty good matches between the two of them. I think that all of the matches have had a little, little addition here and there to try and make it, that those near falls. And the match at the Rumble was another good one. And I think Fastlane will be another great match between the two of them. But you think about it now, where do they go from here? Do Del Rio and Rusev team up for the League of Nations and go after the tag team titles after Fastlane? Does Del Rio win and they shock everybody and give him the title off Kalisto again because Sin Cara is coming back, or Sin Cara is back? I'm sorry. How do they equate that into the storyline is another thing that I really wonder about.
Yeah, I feel bad for the New Day. I think they were a great stable to begin with, but sadly the injuries kind of killed them. I think with Del Rio, I think you let him put over Kalisto. I think Kalisto's shown enough that he can get over and that he can win this match even with his size. Like I said, he has the Rey Mysterio type size, which I would still love to see that match. Like I said, maybe you put Del Rio in another picture. Maybe you put him, maybe going for the IC. He wants to step up, or maybe you put him in that ladder match for a U.S. or Intercontinental title, or maybe at WrestleMania you bring back Money in the Bank. Who knows?
And get rid of the pay-per-view, the Money in the Bank pay-per-view.
I personally, I think you should. I like that match when they had it at WrestleMania. I think it brought another aspect to WrestleMania. We saw all these ladder matches they've done have been exciting. Maybe you do bring that back to WrestleMania. I don't know.
Yeah, I think a ladder match of some sort needs to happen at WrestleMania. I think it gives it that little, especially if they open WrestleMania like this past year. I think that ladder match, it involves a lot more people, especially because you look at what you've heard for months now about what the card looks like, and you see a lot of singles matches, a lot of one-on-one matches, not many, multi-person matches. So it gets a lot more people on the card, obviously outside the Memorial Battle Royal, the Andre the Giant Battle Royal.
Mm-hmm.
So you go from there, and you figure out, you do a match like that and you get these guys involved, and it just shows, it puts a lot of them in that, like you said, it puts a lot of them in that kind of mainstream attention of being in a title match and a ladder match, which would be great for them.
Yeah. So there's our I guess now let's go with the predictions for Fastlane. Who wins the triple threat? Who's going to WrestleMania to face Triple H?
I know you're going to love hearing me say this. I just don't see anyone but Roman Reigns winning that match.
I don't either. I mean,
Um,
there's really no one else to win.
I
They want Roman
also
to be the guy.
I know a lot of people are clamoring for Dean Ambrose to be put in that match, and I think Ambrose would be great in that match, but I just don't. I feel like unless tonight they have him drop the IC title to try and add some kind of, like, oh man, maybe they are going to do this. I feel like that it just makes zero sense to have your two. I mean, you think about it, the IC title is probably the next biggest title behind the WWE title, especially since Ambrose is holding it. Where do they do at WrestleMania? You have the Intercontinental title and the WWE World title in the same match. I mean, we just saw a couple months ago the
No, because
WWE
you really
United
think
States
Triple H is
title.
going to hold both of those? No.
Right, exactly. And then even if you let Ambrose win both, we saw this, in August with Rollins holding the U.S. title and the WWE title. But at least in that, they were able to make it look like a heel finish because they had Jon Stewart help Rollins, even though he was only doing it to help Ric Flair. So I think Roman goes over, and I think Roman finally, obviously I'm throwing ahead to WrestleMania now, but I think Roman finally gets his big moment. And hopefully the crowd's behind him when he wins the title, because I think Roman's gradually progressed his in-ring work, all throughout. And I think he does have good matches, and I think it's finally time to let him have that big moment. And there's no Money in the Bank to cash in this time, so there's nothing to worry about there. And I think that Roman goes over Triple H, and Triple H does exactly what he wants to do and elevate talent. And I think that would be fantastic for Roman.
All right, let's go with Kalisto and Del Rio. I'm going to go with Kalisto. Who do you got?
I'll go with Kalisto, but I want you to I'll let you give the backstory of why you think Kalisto on this and where he goes next.
I just think personally because I'm tired of going back and forth between the title. I mean, the past month they've done it like what, 3 times, I guess. Yeah, including the Royal Rumble pay-per-view. I think it's time for someone to actually grab that title and go on a long run. And I think maybe you do set up for a ladder match at WrestleMania with that title. I think the IC title, if Ambrose doesn't win, I think he'll have a singles match personally at WrestleMania for that title. And I think the IC title, I think the US title will be up for the ladder match if you don't have a Money in the Bank.
So we'll move right next. We have the two Divas matches. We'll go first with the tag team match of Sasha and Becky versus Team Bad.
I think you're going to see a stipulation come out on Raw tonight to where the winning team will go for the title in the triple threat at WrestleMania, which would be kind of interesting. I would hope they would do something like that. So I'm going to go with Becky and Sasha because it's time to see these NXT Divas all together and see what they can do and show the world what they can do.
I agree, man. That's basically what I was going to say. I think it's time that you see why these girls were called up all together at the same time for the Diva Revolution, as they called it. Then in the title picture, I think we kind of touched on this. We'll just touch on a little bit more. Charlotte and Brie. I don't see Charlotte losing this match to Brie.
No, I don't even need to explain on why. There's no reason to explain.
I think it was. I'll just say this. I think it was great that Brie was given one title match. But like you said, I think it's a little bit of combination. I'm hearing she wants to leave soon. To pursue, obviously now that Daniel's retiring, she probably wants to spend more time at home with him, and I think that this is good. At least she gets another match, one more title match, but I think it's ultimately to build Charlotte up even further to the, impending match that she's going to have at WrestleMania with whoever it might be. I don't think we're missing any matches, but we are
speculating.
Well, they haven't,
and,
exactly. AJ and Jericho hasn't officially been announced. I expect that to be announced tonight. And like I said, I'll go AJ and in that match. How about you?
Yeah, if they do it, I'm going to go with AJ. I think he'll get over in his first pay-per-view. And I think, you look at Vince on who he promotes, it's people with the fans. And like you were at the Rumble, and you can see it on TV, the reaction he got when he came out. And I think the fans are going to push AJ in the main event picture. And I think before long, we're going to see him in that picture. We're going to see him going for number one contenders. We're going to see him going for an IC U.S. title. I think it's not going to be long before AJ has something around his waist.
Absolutely, I couldn't agree more. And like you said, being there at the Rumble live, you actually, you're sitting there, you're seeing Roman Reigns' reaction when you're watching it live, at home. But we're sitting there watching the Titantron, and we're seeing I Am Phenomenal, and everyone kind of, they didn't want to jump to conclusions too quick. They had a feeling who it was, and then the minute his name, not even him walk out yet, the minute they saw AJ come up, everyone went nuts in that arena. And I think that speaks about the kind of, like you said, the kind of wrestler and the kind of character that AJ brings to WWE and what he'll do in the future. And I think that him going over at Fastlane is a great step to further making sure that he's going to be a great talent there. And any other matches? Let's just name some other people. The League, like we were saying, the League of Nations, other than Del Rio, they don't have a match. We don't know how long Sheamus is out. You only see that he has a cast on his wrist. Exactly. The Wyatts have zero match because Strowman's having a match on Raw. Maybe it ends in a disqualification. They have the rematch. Kevin Owens doesn't have a match. Dolph Ziggler doesn't have a match.
Something's going to come up.
Does Kevin Owens and Ziggler face each other at Fastlane? They've been facing each other on Raw back and forth every week, trading wins. Do they have one more match at Fastlane just to end it and see who it is? I think there's a great amount of possibilities for a lot of these guys. And
we'll update the fans on our Facebook page when the matches are announced, the newer ones.
Absolutely.
So keep into that.
There's one thing I want to talk about before. Did you have anything else about Fastlane?
Nope. Go right ahead, buddy.
I read today on Twitter. I don't have the tweet in front of me, but I read it seemed kind of cryptic from John Cena, basically saying that
I heard
these next 2 weeks are going to be a test, but he never gives up, basically almost alluding to that he is going to try to return for WrestleMania. And if he does return, is it the match that everyone thinks is going to happen that they've been talking about for months prior to his injury? Do you think? Yeah.
You know what? Yes, because really, what do they have for Cena and what do they have for Taker? Taker's plan was Cena originally. They really don't have anything right now for John Cena. And, I think with Taker, they're scrambling to figure out what to do with him. I mean, they shut down Strowman. They shut down Kevin Owens, was fighting to get that match, and they took it down because apparently wasn't getting good reaction from the fans, which I would have loved that kind of match. I would love to see if Owens could drop up powerbomb Taker. I would have loved to see if he could have done that. I think they go the original plan with Cena and Taker. I'm assuming Cena will come out on a Raw, announce that he's back, and then you'll hear the gong just go off.
Yeah, and I think so.
He'll look confused, and Taker will just point at the sign, and so will Cena.
Now, let me ask you this. I know we're going a little ahead. We'll talk more, I'm sure, down the road about this. But do you think that match is the final match for the Undertaker? Yes or no? And we'll touch on this again, I'm sure, in future episodes. But
No,
all right.
no. I think he's been putting up pictures of himself working out, and he still looks to be in great shape. And the way he did 3 pay-per-views last year. He did 2 back-to-back, which he hasn't done in probably over a century. I'm being sarcastic there,
Obviously, yeah.
And I think he looked great in all those. He looked great against Brock. He looked great against the Whites with his brother. I think he seems to be in one of the best shapes that he's been in the past couple of years. And now that's from whatever he's doing at home, off his own. I mean, for him to do 3 matches in 1 year, and especially back-to-back pay-per-views, and 2 grueling matches against 2 grueling opponents, shows that he's still good to go. And I don't think this is it for him.
Absolutely. Well, Matt, I agree with you on that. I think that the Undertaker is constantly training, and I think that's a testament to just him as a performer. And it's a lot. It's very hard on the body, I'm sure. You saw what happened to Sting, unfortunately, that he had he hasn't officially announced his retirement yet, but it doesn't look too good after that match at Rollins. But does he go? Does he continue to go every WrestleMania for the next few years, or does he go out this year because it's in Texas where he's from? Does he want to have his final match against the poster child, basically the face of the WWE for the last 10 plus years, better part of one of the, and you think about it, Cena's probably, you had The Rock, you had Austin, you had Hogan, you had all of these guys that were the faces of WWE for a while, but you talk about over a long period of time, Cena has been doing this for 10 plus years as the number 1 guy in a company, whereas like The Rock and Austin were like 4 or 5 years. Not to say that they weren't huge stars, but they weren't that long a period of time, and I think that's a testament to Cena, and I think that's why The Undertaker wants this match, and I think that's why you see Cena posting this stuff on Twitter, because he knows what kind of match that would be to have at WrestleMania, despite the streak being on the line. So
I think that's about going to wrap it up for our first episode.
We want to say thank you to everybody that tuned in, and if not, this will be on YouTube. You can watch the stream. We are going to try to be live every Monday night around the same time, 6:45. We'll keep you updated on our Facebook page. So we want to say thank you very much, as usual, to our great producer, Paul. Thank you for everything.
Speaking of our great producer, Paul, why don't you do what you do for me on my show and let everyone know where they can find us at?
That's a good question. The OT3 is so new, I might not know at every week.
He's just say Shite Sports Talk my ass.
So I know, let's see, on the screen you can see the on Twitter, it's OT3 Podcast 1. So send in your questions, comments, or matches that you've liked in the past matchups. Emails can go to ot3podcast@gmail.com, and then Facebook, you can just do Facebook/Off the Top Turnbuckle, and it'll take you right to the Facebook page. But I'm sure these guys, Matt and Anthony, are going to be updating their Twitters, updating the Facebook page as these matches go along, so you guys can watch with them. And I think that's it, right? We're getting a website up, so stay tuned for that. But that'll come shortly.
Absolutely, and like he said, sorry, Paul, to cut you off, but if you see our Twitter names underneath us, if you'd like to send directly to us either and say anything, please feel free. And I'd also like to, before we sign off, also say if you like this show, please tune in to my friend Matt, my co-host right here, his Shipe Sports Talk show.
Yeah, I love the publicity, buddy. Catch me 6 o'clock every 6 o'clock every Thursday, 6:45, which Anthony will be appearing on again. I want you back on that show again too.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So for like Anthony said, everyone, thank you for watching us. Please like the YouTube, subscribe. Comment us, join us in the chat room every Monday night, and we love to interact with fans. I know I love doing it on my show, and I'm sure Anthony will love doing it on this show.
Absolutely.
All right, guys. So
enjoy.
For everybody on the OT3, we'll see you later, I guess, next week.
Take care, everyone.
Take care. Enjoy Raw.